I'm joining us now with his Red Sox baseball cap on. The Red Sox won yesterday. He does that just to annoy me because I had my Astro shirt last night on at his home just to annoy him. So now, turnabout his favorite play. Joining us now, Corey Lewandowski. Hey, Corey, it's great to have you with us. The president really...
What a place, huh?
Isn't this great? AJ
Letizia must be very rich, I have to tell you. This is an amazing facility. I pulled up. I almost saw a weed in the lawn, but it was a figment of my imagination. And I know his lawn guy. He's the best there is. I almost saw a weed, but it was just not really there.
Well, I'm so glad that you're here, and we're trying to get an affiliate here in Manchester, and Al is going to build us a studio right up in that tower that he's got there.
There's a lot of room over there.
Of course, the idea of me going up that spiral staircase every day, I don't know about that. But
you could do a lot worse than Al's place. Let me tell you
I know. And he is our host today and our sponsor, AJ Letizia. And Al, thanks for all you do. Corey, you got a lot of love last night from the president. A lot of love. We really want to know, you had an opportunity last evening, the president basically endorsing you. I know the legacy media said that it was a quasi-endorsement. I took it as a full-throated endorsement. The president wants you to run for U.S. Senate in New Hampshire. And so as soon as I got to your home last night, the first thing I did was talk to your lovely wife, Allison, who seemed to be warming to the idea, if I may
She
say
is
that.
actually warming
She's
to it.
warming.
But I got to convince Al because he's with somebody else, and so is Freddie. So I got to get these guys on the team, John, right? I have to get them on the team. As soon as I get them on the team, right?
Now's the time, Corey.
As soon as I get them on the team,
Pull the trigger.
look, the truth is this. It is a gauntlet to run for public office these days, and the impact on your family is astronomical. And I wish it wasn't that case because, number one, I can beat Gene Shaheen. There's no question about it. Okay? The president will endorse me if I get in the race. I firmly believe that.
Well,
but
that was evident last
impact
evening.
on your family, John, and what it does because of the lies and the hatred of this president because he is not the establishment is so visceral by the mainstream media, by members of the press. I'll just give you listeners one quick example. I wrote a quote for Politico, one of those rags that publishes out of Washington, D.C. I wrote a quote, and I sent it to the reporter, and he said, I didn't like your quote, so I edited it.
No.
I said, well, that's not how it works. This is my quote. He said, what evidence do you have that your quote is accurate? I said, it's my quote, so I'd like you to use it in its entirety.
So they changed your quote?
Not only did they change it, they edited it, they manipulated it, and they said, well, we use the gist of your quote. Well, if I wanted someone to use the gist of my quote, I would have given you the gist of my quote. But I gave you a written quote that I wanted you to use as it related to Judge Gregg and Dave Carney and Tom Rath and all of the people who hate this president more than they love their country. And so, look, that's what I'm up against. And hey, John, I'm a fighter. These guys know. Okay, I love to fight. I'm very good at it. I enjoy it. It's one of the few things in life I've always been good at, fighting. But the impact on your family you have to take into consideration. And, Don and Bill, the other guys in the race, they're very fine, capable people. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if they can have the financial wherewithal and the resources necessary to beat a two-term incumbent, Gene Shaheen, who has the resources of Washington, D.C., who's failed our state, who didn't vote for Gorsuch, who didn't vote for Kavanaugh, who didn't vote to defund sanctuary cities, who I don't believe represents the values of the people of New Hampshire. And if we truly want to send someone to Washington, D.C., who is going to help this president achieve his goals, which is very simple, put America first. If that's what we need and that's what we want to achieve, then I think I'm the only guy who can do that. So, look, I've got some time. This is a long race. It's a year away, the primary. But if I get in, make no mistake, I'm going all in. I'm not doing this as a vanity project. I'm not going to do this just to pretend I want to be a U.S. Senator. If I go in, I'll raise more money than anybody on the race. And I'll take on all comers, whether that's the establishment, whether it is these guys who think that they've got a story that is more compelling than mine. There is nobody in this state who has been more of an advocate for this president than I have been. Nobody. And Al knows and Freddie knows and and Lou Gargiulo and Steve Stepanak and Bruce Breton, they all know I was here when nobody else was. I brought the president to Windham, New Hampshire. I brought the president to the North Country. I brought the president to Manchester. And so all these other guys who are Johnny-come-latelys have to understand something. It's a very different race running against Corey Lewandowski.
Well, the president asked you to run. There's no question about that. And other people that we have talked to have told us that he has personally asked you to run. He shares the same sentiment, Corey, that you're the only candidate who has the real opportunity to beat Jeanne Shaheen, and he would love to see you in the Senate when he's there for a second term. And look, the fact that you being on the ballot is going to help the president win New Hampshire as well as win for yourself. And a lot of people like me believe that if he's able to turn New Hampshire red and win New Hampshire, he's almost guaranteed a second term, because he can lose then up to he could actually, if he carried all the same states he did and New Hampshire, he could lose both Michigan and Pennsylvania and still get reelected just with the 4 electoral votes that you have in New Hampshire. So the question is, the president has asked you to run. He's willing to put all of his political capital behind you. You'll be able to raise all the money you need to win. And anybody that I've talked to in New Hampshire has told me there's only one person that could beat Senator Shaheen, and that's Corey Lewandowski. So I talked to Allison last night, your wife. She seems okay with the idea. Your kids are excited about it. What's the holdup?
Well, I'll tell you what, John. We got to get my wife a little more than okay, right? I have known my wife for 33 years, if you can believe it. It's been a long time. We have had ups and downs and tragedies and highs and lows. And, it's a gauntlet. It's really hard. And I think I'm the only person who's going to beat Jeanne Shaheen, just very candidly. And I don't mean to sound braggadocious, but I think the fundraising capacity that I have, the support of not just the president, the entire president's campaign, Brad Parscale, the family, the president's pollster, the people who know me, who want me to get in this race. But we've got a long time. The filing deadline is next June. I'm going to make a decision on this race with my family based on the timeline that's best for us. And, my kids go to the public schools here. They already get chastised and jeered because of what their father does. And look, John, the media is very dishonest. I just got to be honest with you. I love you, but I see what they say. I see what they say about me and my family, and I'm going to really think hard and long about it. And look, I talked to Governor Sununu last night about this notion that he's opposed to my candidacy. It's a complete fallacy. I had a long conversation with Chris Sununu, the governor of New Hampshire, last night, and what he knows is if I get in the race and $30 million pours into this state on behalf of the Republican nominee, that's good for him. It's good for taking back the House of Representatives in New Hampshire, the Senate. And so let's see what happens.
If you do get in the race, you agree with me then that your candidacy would benefit all the Republican candidates, including the president on the top of the ticket, because of the fundraising you'd be able to do and the attention you would bring on the state, and the fact that I think you'd be an outstanding candidate. You do agree with me that you would be an asset to everybody top down?
Look, I think so, right? I mean, people have their own things, and these guys who got deferment for bedwetting, like Judd Gregg, who didn't serve in our military, they probably think differently. But that's okay, because my daddy didn't give me a U.S. Senate seat. My daddy didn't give me a trust fund. I grew up poor, John, and growing up poor, my wife and I grew up in a place called Lowell, Massachusetts. Okay, my grandfather was a union printer for 40 years. Okay, my mom worked multiple jobs so that me and my brother, who served 23 years in uniform in the United States Marine Corps, had the opportunity to be successful, because this is the greatest country in the world. But those guys are so afraid of what I will bring, which is, John, I'm a fighter. Okay, your listeners know that. But if you think that in this great country, your daddy had to give you something, your grandfather had to be somebody else, I don't agree with that. I stand with the men and women who serve our country every day, whether it's in uniform of our U.S. military or the police officers who I saw last night in Manchester, New Hampshire, and the U.S. Marshals, and the guys who put their lives and the women who put their lives on the line every day to protect us. I was a police officer in this state. Those are the votes that I want. I don't belong to a country club. I don't care about people who belong to country clubs. I care about the people who get up and go to work every day who say, my lives are better today because of Donald John Trump than they were 4 years ago. And if those are the people that I am tied to, then you know what? I'm proud of that fact. But I don't care about those country club hypocrites who didn't support our president, who don't support our president, who decide that they think that because their daddy or their granddaddy or their cousin or their brother or whatever it was in elective office before them, they get to choose who serves our state in elected capacity. I don't buy it. I don't think the people buy it. And you know what, John? When they say those things, it only emboldens me and my family more because my wife and I grew up in Lowell, Massachusetts. And guess what? We love to fight. And when you fight, John, when you have nothing to lose,
right,
you get to win.
Right.
And I love winning even more than I love fighting. And I do them both very well.
One of the Republican candidates that is in the race now is one of your best friends that you knew from when you were in AFP and you ran New Hampshire, and that's former Speaker Bill O'Brien.
He's a great man.
You've had nothing but good things to think about it. Bill was on our show the other day. He's already in the race. He's blasted the general, the Brigadier General Don, who's in it also.
Is he really in the race, this guy Don? Nobody knows him. He's got a 2% name ID, doesn't have 7 cents to his name, and can't raise money. So how is he a real candidate? Look, hey, John.
He was a general.
Hey, great. My brother was a colonel in the Marine Corps. My grandfather served in the United States military during World War II, and my father served in Vietnam, okay? My family is a military family. I love the military, and I respect his service to the country. But just because you served in the U.S. military doesn't make you qualified to be in the United States U.S. Senate.
Right.
Okay? So, look, let's give Don the opportunity to prove to the people of New Hampshire that he can raise the resources necessary to compete with Jeanne Shaheen. So if Don goes out and raises $3 or $4 million and puts that on the board, guess what? Good for him. That makes him a real candidate. But I don't see that happening. He's got about a 4% name ID in the state of New Hampshire right now. And I see this completely ridiculous poll that Jeff Rowe, who hated Donald Trump, did.
Right.
Okay? And it says he and I are tied. I will bet you a year's salary. We go around that arena last night, the 10,000 people in the building and the 5,000 people outside, and you say Corey Lewandowski or Don Bolduc, let's take that poll. The truth is, I win every single time. So he can put out his poll, and I know his consultants, half of which I gave jobs to in the Trump administration, okay? And that's okay, John. But you know what races do? You know what elections do? They show you who your friends are and who your enemies are.
Right.
And by the way, I remember it so clearly with Trump. He said, hey, Corey, I don't know if I'm going to win this thing, but I'm going to know who my friends are. And he lost a lot of friends.
Right.
But guess what? We had a lot more friends today than we did before. And the truth is, I'm okay with that. But elections have consequences, and I don't think Don stays in the race if I get in. I've heard all the rhetoric and all the braggadociousness. He's going to run. He's supported by the 7 people in New Hampshire who know him. Okay? My family's been in this state now my entire adult life. My kids go to school here. I love people who serve in the military. But just because you serve in the military isn't the only qualification to be in the United States Senate. And you have to have proven that you have the wherewithal and the tenacity to go and run a U.S. Senate race. And part of that ability is to raise money. So we'll give Don some leeway. Absolutely. We'll give him the opportunity to prove that he is a serious Senate candidate. But if he doesn't put a number on the board at the end of this primary cycle in September, at the end of this quarter, if he puts $600,000 on the board, that's great if you're running for county commissioner in Ohio. Okay? But that's not a U.S. Senate candidate.
Well, the other concerning thing, look, I've been in this business a long time, Corey. We invited him on our show yesterday. We were live at the Red Arrow Diner. Representative Fred Doucette here had it set up for him to come and we give him a segment, you know, with the president being in Manchester. He was right there, was right next door. We gave him a 4-hour window. He made a commitment, and then he didn't show and said he was busy.
That's the same thing that happened to me, John. I tried to meet the guy as a commitment, and he didn't understand how the clock works, I guess, okay? So I said, hey, let's meet at 3 o'clock, and at 4:30, the guy says, I'm running a little late. I said, hey, when you run for office, okay, and I'm a nobody, I'm proud to say that, right? I'm a grundoon. You know what that means? It means you're a zero who grew up with nothing.
Right.
But you don't let people wait because your time is no more valuable than anybody else's.
Exactly.
So being an hour and a half late for somebody, maybe the military is a different operation. And my brother, who served 23 years as United States Marine, understands when he says to me, I'm going to call you at 4 o'clock. Bing! 4 o'clock, the phone rings. Okay? So maybe it's just a different operation, and that's how the general operates or Don operates. But the truth is, you can't do that to people. And when you get an opportunity to come on a radio show like yours, which I have done, John, for probably every week for 4 years almost, okay?
Every week for 4 years.
That is how you build something. And I don't think his people fully comprehend how difficult this race is because there are no free passes.
That's right.
This is a man who has not been in the state of New Hampshire and has not voted in the last presidential election. And his answer was, well, I was in the military. Well, guess what? If that means people who are in the military don't vote, we've got a very sad operation.
Joining us for this roundtable, Al, first of all, thank you for being such a gracious host.
You're very welcome.
Also want to thank you for feeding us Al's finest meats and cheeses right here. His family's been in business since 1912. Also with us is cousin Brucey, Bruce Brenton, the father of Wyndham, and Fred Doucette, House of Representatives Republican floor leader, and also the chairman of the Trump for President campaign in New Hampshire 2020. He was also the chairman in 2016. Let's give him a big hand, Fred Doucette, and his co-chair, Al, how do I say his name?
Al Baldassaro.
Baldassaro, I got to get it right.
And Lou Gargiulo.
And Lou Gargiulo. Al will be with us at 10:30 live, and you don't want to miss that. If you've never heard Al on the radio, just ask him one question, fasten your seatbelts, sit back, and we'll see what happens until we go off the air at 11 o'clock. That's basically the Al rolls. Corey Lewandowski with us. Also, Corey, as you know, been on my show. We were just talking about this. Every week he's come on for 4 years, except when he's on vacation or he's not available for something.
Vacation? What is that?
Once in a while, you got to go spend some time with the fam, and I get it. But other than when you were traveling with your family, you've been on my show every week for a year. We appreciate that. Corey Lewandowski engineered the president's primary victory, the biggest upset in history. He's also a New York Times bestseller. 2 books, Let Trump Beat Trump and Trump's Enemies.
2 times. 2 times New York Times bestselling author. Can you believe that?
2 times New York Times bestselling author.
Right?
You can buy his books. Just go to my website, John Fredericks radio.com, and they're right there. You can buy them. Take you 2 minutes, best reads. And we're going to open Corey up for questions from our audience. He's not afraid, as his opponent was yesterday, General Don Bolduc, Brigadier General. We invited him on our show. He committed to come on live at the diner. He didn't call. And so
you don't call, you don't write. It's like having a girlfriend sometimes, John. I think I don't have those.
No, it's like being.
They're very expensive, I'm told.
Yes, but no different than you and I have been married 31 years. So
well, and by the way, my wife is a killer, so it's not a good idea.
That's right. I wouldn't recommend it if you know Allison. Anyway, 888-480-JOHN, 888-480-5646, 888-480-5646. You can also text in a question, 757-692-1710. Corey, let's get to the politics here of your Senate run, which I'm uniquely focused on. One of the other candidates in the race happens to be one of your best friends, Bill O'Brien, who was your sergeant comrade in arms during the AFP days. Former speaker, Bill is in the race. You guys are really close friends. If you get in, how do you navigate your way through Bill O'Brien?
Well, look, Bill O'Brien is a man of the utmost integrity. And I hear what they say about Bill, which is he can't win a general election. It's the same thing they said about Donald Trump, same thing they said about my friend Ron DeSantis in Florida, same thing they said about Marshall Blackburn in Tennessee. He can't win a general election. I don't believe that. And, Bill O'Brien is a guy who has fought the fights both in an elected capacity and now running a group that many people know in Washington, D.C. on behalf of Grover Nordquist here in Manchester to advocate for smaller government. He's been in the trenches. He's a guy who helped to fundamentally transform New Hampshire. And that scares people.
Mm-hmm.
It scares them. And look, I have enormous respect for Bill. I consider him a friend. He's been to my home. I've been to his home. I know his wife. He knows my family. And so we're a tiny little state. And if I get in this race, I would hope that Bill O'Brien would endorse my campaign. And look, he has to do what's best for him. But Bill and I are two individuals who have fought on behalf of the people of New Hampshire together for smaller government, lower taxes, and less regulation. And so, if I get in this race and Bill decides that he's going to stay in the race, I think that's detrimental to what the end goal is. And the end goal has to be to beat Jeanne Shaheen, a U.S. Senator who voted against Justice Kavanaugh, who voted against Justice Gorsuch, who voted against defunding sanctuary cities, who votes in lockstep with Chuck Schumer and the Nancy Pelosi wing of the Democratic Party. I don't believe those are the same values that the people of New Hampshire have. We saw it last night. John, that rally last night for President Donald Trump, not just the 12,000 people or 15,000 people, the new record inside the arena at the SNHU Center. It's not just those people. It's all the people who couldn't get in, who said, hey, Corey, I'm outside, and there's 10,000 of us out here, and we're honored to be here to support the president. And then I walked out, and you know who I saw?
Who?
I saw the police officers who put their lives on the line every single day. I ran into an officer last night from the Manchester PD, Brian O'Keefe, Captain O'Keefe. Grew up in Lowell, Massachusetts, just like me. His brother works in the same field, law enforcement. Grew up with my best friend, Kevin Rourke, who's now in Nashua PD as the deputy chief over there. These are the men and women who put their lives on the line every single day to make sure we're safe. Those are the people who are tired of politicians as usual, who want to see a change be brought to Washington, D.C. And so, look, Bill O'Brien is a friend of mine. I don't know Don. I met him once very briefly. He was an hour and a half late for our meeting, and I don't know. I'm sure it was very important, whatever he's doing before. Or maybe he doesn't understand the clock or know how traffic works. But the truth is, you need someone who's going to take the fight to Jeanne Shaheen. And the people of New Hampshire deserve better, in my opinion. So I respect Bill O'Brien. I know his family. I know his wife. And I respect what he's done for this state, and he's a good man.
So basically, if you get in the race, you would expect to have a conversation with Speaker O'Brien and hope that he would do the right thing and get out of the race and endorse your candidacy.
Well,
that would be
it's
the
up to
goal.
Bill. I can't tell people what to do. And
right, but that would
America, right? This is the greatest country in the world, and if people want to run for office, they're welcome to do so. But if the goal, at the end of the day, is to put someone into the U.S. Senate that's going to help this president, that's going to make sure that they're advocating for the people of New Hampshire, then a divisive Republican primary doesn't serve that goal. Don't forget, John, the filing deadline's next June. The primary is next September. It's a year away. And putting lead on the target, meaning going after Jeanne Shaheen, should be the goal of every Republican in this country.
Not infighting.
No. Look, infighting doesn't help. The Democrats have a clear path to Jeanne Shaheen's race. She wants to be in lockstep with with Chuck Schumer, with Nancy Pelosi, with AOC. That doesn't represent New Hampshire values, and I am firmly under the belief that Donald Trump is going to win in the state of New Hampshire in 2020.
Well, what's your time frame should you decide to get in?
Look, I'm willing to spend some time with my family. But at the end of the third quarter, if Don or Bill don't put up a number commensurate with running for the United States Senate, don't forget, former Senator Ayotte raised $18 million in the race, and the outside groups spent another $30 million on her behalf.
And she lost.
That's $48 million. If they don't put up a number which is commensurate with that spending level to prove that they have the wherewithal to go toe-to-toe with Jeanne Shaheen, then I will be compelled to get into this race. So 300,000, 400, 600,000. If they don't put up $2 million, then in my opinion, John, you know what? The establishment is going to like this. They're not legitimate candidates. They can't compete. Look, I have been around this country. I have friends who are willing to run outside organizations for me to the tune of $5 and $10 million. And I guarantee Jean Shaheen's going to use this clip and go out and raise money because she is scared to death against running against Corey Lewandowski, because I will take the fight directly to her, and there is nobody who can outwork me in this state if I get into this race.
So basically, you're looking for one or both of these candidates to be able to post about $2 million at the end of the third quarter to prove that they're legitimate candidates. Otherwise, it sounds like your time frame is going to be around October to make a decision to get in this race.
Look, I think that's right.
Is that a fair assessment?
I think that, John, I think you're spot on. My time frame is probably early Q4 of making the decision. That gives me the opportunity to run for 11 months, right? Gives my kids back into the schools here in our hometown, which I love. Mm-hmm. If they had a track around the football stadium, I'd be even happier, or maybe, some bleachers. But other than that, I love this town. But the truth is, John, money talks in this business. And if the other candidates who are running can't compete with Jean Shaheen, who has $2.8 million in her bank account right now,
right,
then they have to decide for themselves, is this really a vanity project, or do they really want to be a U.S. senator? And putting a number on the board that is less than $2 million raised tells me they're not serious candidates.
Well, Corey, I'd say this. If you get in, and I think you will, after talking to Allison last night, I think you definitely win this race. You haven't gotten in, so I'm going to do the same thing today I did with President Trump when I had him on the phone in April of 2015. He hadn't announced, if you get in, you win, and you've got my full 100% endorsement right now. So I'm the first person in media to endorse your candidacy for U.S. Senate. I think you'll be a dynamite
candidate. It worked well last
candidate.
time, so let's hope it works again, John.
That's been a winning formula, no question about it. Okay, let me ask you this. You've got some detractors in New Hampshire, and I'm not as familiar as the state with some other people. You got a couple of detractors. Let's air the dirty laundry now and just get it out. We can be done with it.
Freddie Doucette is not a detractor. I don't care what they say about him. He's not a detractor.
Although he has backed General Don Bolduc, I'm not sure he's going to be able to help him raise $2 million. But Fred, you might have to rethink that one, especially now that I'm on board.
The dynamic will change if Corey jumps in.
He said the dynamic will change if I get in the race, and I agree with him.
Okay, well,
absolutely a different dynamic.
And Al Letizio, we love Al. He's our host today. He knows that if I get in this race, it changes the dynamic. And Don's a fine man. I don't know him. I respect his service like my family has served, like Al's family has served. I know Al's family, and his family has served in combat. They put the uniform on. They volunteered to go and be in the toughest situations and have done so honorably. And I love the military. The United States Marine Corps took care of my brother for 23 years as an active duty colonel. Grew up poor and went through OCS and TBS, so it's Officer Training School and the basic school, and gave him and his family amazing opportunities to see the world. And my father served in the Army, and my grandfather served in World War II. I love the military. But there is more to serve in the United States Senate than just that. And we all know that, and we know that if I get in this race, John, it is going to be an epic battle, and it will put this state in play for Republicans that right now there is nobody in Washington, D.C. who truly believes that Jean Shaheen is going to lose that Senate race until I make the decision.
So they're not going to get the money, and that's back to what you're talking about. If you get in the race, you're going to get outside money. You're going to get Republican senatorial money. You're going to get McConnell's money. I've already talked to people behind the scenes that have said that, told me that McConnell has certainly is embracing your candidacy because he can see a potential win. So I think you're good there. What about this gentleman, Dave Carney, a longtime New Hampshire-based strategist in Politico? He says he's worked on an array of statewide Republican campaigns here. I don't know him, so I'm going to have to leave it to you guys. He says in Politico, Lewandowski adds nothing to the ticket. He doesn't help the president or the ticket in any way. Corey's a political hack. Political hacks make bad candidates generally. This is a guy, Dave Carney, that Politico says is a pretty high-powered operative in New Hampshire. Is that does people like him represent an issue?
John, I haven't spoken to Dave Carney in 5 years. He works in the state of Texas. He was Rick Perry's campaign manager. Didn't work out so well, in case you were wondering. Okay, Rick is not the president of the United States. And I'm willing to put my record up against Dave Carney anytime, day, or place. But the truth is, nobody in New Hampshire knows Dave Carney. Mm-hmm. And I respect the work that he did, I think, in the first Bush administration, which is the better part of, I guess, 30 years ago now, almost. But the truth is, I'm a Donald Trump guy, and I'm unapologetic about it, and he's the President of the United States. And Dave Carney doesn't speak for the men and women who get up and go to work every single day. He's one of these country club Republicans who decide that they want to attack Corey Lewandowski because I don't belong to a country club, because I'm not in the in crowd, because I'm the outsider. And you know what, John? I love when they attack me. You know, when Gregg, the former U.S. Senator, attacks me, hey, no one in my family received a military deferment for bedwetting. Let's just be clear about that Judd did, okay? Nobody gave me a thing in life. My grandfather was a union printer for 40 years. My grandmother was a bank teller. I grew up in a one-parent household, so my mother worked 4 jobs just so me and my brother had the opportunity to have food and do something better. Mm-hmm. And I raised my family here in New Hampshire. And I'm grateful for everything this country has offered me. Mm-hmm. But if you think I'm going to listen to people like Gregg or Tom Rath, the former appointed Attorney General of New Hampshire who's never won office in his life, and if you think that they're going to discourage me from getting in this race, they need to understand something. They don't know Corey Lewandowski or Allison Lewandowski from Lowell, Massachusetts, where we grew up. That emboldens me, okay? That fires me up. Because I love to fight, John. I told you that. And if they want to bring the fight to me, you better be careful. Because getting into the ring, right, you don't know what could happen. Everybody has a plan till you get punched in the face. And you know what, John? I'm one of those guys. You better be very careful if you want to attack me, because I'm not going to go quietly into that good night. I'm going to make sure that the people of the state of New Hampshire know that if I get in this race, I'm going to fight for them as hard as I fight my opponents. I will fight for the people of New Hampshire to make sure that they have every resource possible. And Jeanne Shaheen has not delivered one signature piece of legislation in the 12 years she's been in the U.S. Senate. So, hey, you want to bring that fight to me? Come right to me, baby.
And I'm just going to add to that, Corey. This is Al. For every one insignificant person there is like that who just comes up out of the ash heap and wants to make a comment like that about Corey, there are 10 of us who are going to stand up, and we'll be defending Corey, and we'll be standing for him. And let me just say, Corey, that yes, I did sign up like my friend Fred with the General, and I'll go as far as to say that when you reach that time, and I know you're a family guy and you're going to do what's right for your family first, when you do that and you step up and you make a commitment to your country, you're going to have me right beside you there with you 100% of the way. And if anybody like that insignificant guy wants to step up, he'll have to fight us too.
Thank you, Al. It means so much, Al. I know you. I know your family. You know, I ran the 5K with the family, your family this year, right, from Wyndham. Amazing, beautiful grandchildren, by the way, like out of a picture book. These kids are so beautiful. And that's what the community is about, right? People in this town know me. Al knows me. He's been to my house. I've been to his house. That's what it's about. It's about making sure you're taking care of the people who you love and you respect and you're fighting for. And if I get in this race, I want people to know that. Look, you know, there's a lot of legacy media out there, John, who wants to say a lot of disparaging things about me because that's the easy narrative. Mm-hmm. It's the lowest common denominator. It's what they do to the president. They call him a racist. They call him a misogynist. They call him,
it's just lazy.
All these things because that's the easy thing to do. But when you look at what this president's been able to accomplish and what I've been able to do, the narrative doesn't fit it.
Right.
And so when you talk to friends and family and you talk to my neighbors who are New Hampshire people, they'll tell you, hey, Corey and his family are good people, and I try and help people wherever I can. But if I get in this race, John, I'm going to help everybody in New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. Republican, Democrat, Independent, I'd be here for the people of New Hampshire, and I would bring that to them, an open door to the White House to deliver on this terrible opiate crisis that is impacting everybody regardless of political party, economic background, or anything else. We have to fix that problem. and it's on the mend, but we haven't done enough yet.
We're almost out of time, but I got a couple of comments. I'm going to read one text and then go to one caller. Rich in Richmond says this for Corey. Corey, we need you in the Senate to help President Trump get the rest of his policies passed, health care, etc., and it'll be a safer life for our kids if you get in. So got people encouraging you to run. I've only got time for one caller. Kara, let's take Joe in Chesapeake, Virginia. Joe, you're on the line.
Corey, what a great honor it is for me, for you to even hear my voice. Two quick things. If you have contact information for your campaign, and the second thing is, are you familiar with the fact that the creation of the European Union is an extremely major part of the creation of a world government? The New World Order, as Daddy Bush called it.
All right. Thank
Joe,
you,
you're
Joe.
the greatest. If I have a campaign, I promise I'm going to come on this radio show and give you all the information. So I appreciate your support. And look, the EU has been a disaster. This president has fought back against those guys who have taken advantage of our country on bad trade deals, whether it's China or the European Union or others. And I am so proud to stand next to Donald John Trump and say it's time to put America first. That's not America alone. It's called America first. And if we don't take care of our people here, not the illegal immigrants who want to pour into this country, but the people who did it right and the people who are in this country already, then shame on us. And I think it's easy to say that we have to be great to the rest of the world. I will tell you this. I think we need to be great to the people of our country first. It's America first. Doesn't mean America alone, but it's America first in my opinion.
Final question. What do you think of Israel banning Tlaib and Ilhan Omar from visiting Israel?
Well, look, I'm a huge fan of Benjamin Netanyahu. They are our best advocates, our best friends in the world, and I stand by him and his decision. Look, what they have said and done to Congressman Lee Zeldin, my friend from New York, who's a Jewish Republican, is shameful. The rhetoric and the hatred that they talk about the people of Israel is unbelievable to me. And the fact that they've never been censured or removed from their committee assignments in Washington, D.C. is a total hypocrisy to what we have as our closest and probably best ally in the world, which is Israel. I've been to Israel many times. I love Benjamin Netanyahu. Probably loses me a couple votes, but I don't care because those people are in a bad neighborhood. They have people who want to kill them every single day. You know what they did, John? They built a wall. By the way, walls work, okay? So I love Bibi's decision. I think it's right because of the hatred that those two individuals espouse against the people of Israel. They shouldn't have the privilege of going there.
Corey Lewandowski, sounding very much like a candidate for U.S. Senate, says that he will make a decision after the third quarter financial posting sometime probably October or November. I believe he is going to run for U.S. Senate, and if he does, he is going to win, and he's going to be a U.S. Senator from the state of New Hampshire. Live free or die. And if he does that, Al, I'll be spending a lot of time on my radio show right here in your conference room in that tower. Corey, when I was at your home last night, as I was going out, I checked out the house that you have in the back for people that come and stay, and I'll take the third bedroom on the right. John Fredericks Radio Network, trucking the truth across America with Corey Lewandowski.